Good morning, and thank you for tuning into the Midwest Jesuits Facebook channel. I'm here this morning at Arrupe College of Loyola, Chicago, and I'm here this morning with Father Steve Katsouros. Father Katsouros, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Well, thanks very much for being here and for your interest in Arrupe.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my first question is, would you be able to introduce yourself and how you came to be the Dean and Executive Director of Arrupe College?
Yeah, so I'm Father Steve Katsouros. I'm a Jesuit. I'm a member of the Northeast Province, formerly New York Province, of the Society of Jesus. And I was in high school work for many years. I made the transition into higher ed administration in 2011. And I think so many of us who work in Jesuit colleges and universities are concerned at best about the cost of our tuitions and who gets left out and who, for lots of different reasons, can't access a Jesuit liberal arts experience. And so when the president of Loyola University, Father Mike Garanzini, reached out to me in, I guess, the spring of 2014 and said, listen, we're thinking here at Loyola Chicago about starting a new junior college, a 2-year program for kids who qualify for federal and state aid. And the goal is that they finish the degree and go on to the next chapter with no debt. He said, would you be interested in leading the charge here and being the founding dean? I remember thinking, wow, it's a startup. I'm in my 50s, do I have the energy for this? But I also thought, we have to do this. We've got to walk our talk, our social justice talk. This is it. This is about access and affordability and facilitating opportunities and a bigger tent like Pope Francis talks about, a bigger tent in higher education. And it's a real benefit for higher ed to learn from and experience our students. So that was a while ago, and here I am.
Wonderful. And so you mentioned it's a 2-year college within the Loyola University Chicago program. Now, a couple of years in, what is Arrupe College?
So Arrupe is, here's the elevator speech. It will be a long elevator ride, not too long. Yeah, 2-year college, junior college. Our students get associate's degrees. And it's in McGuire Hall, which is part of Loyola University's Water Tower campus. This building is about 40 plus years old. It was the law school, then it was the business school, and now it's Arrupe College. And we share the building with the School of Social Work, Loyola School of Social Work. So, it's a degree program at Loyola University focusing on 2-year completion.
And you mentioned earlier, it's a part of talking the social justice talk and walking the social justice walk. What about Arrupe makes it a Jesuit college?
Oh, I think this is the most Jesuit thing we're doing. What can I say? So many of our students have been marginalized. And, this is a way of addressing that and addressing that injustice, of promoting justice. In this case, promoting equity and educational opportunities and experiences. And, and it's a way also of embedding it in a large institution. So we're a college at a Jesuit university, like the College of Arts and Sciences or the law school or the School of Nursing. So we're another program within the larger framework of Jesuit higher ed. And I think it is all about when the Jesuits talk about, or our colleagues talk about, the preferential option for the poor, or being persons for and with others, or being of service. That all of that those activities and more.
So can you kind of describe some of the students that Arrupe serves, that offers associate's degrees and paths forward?
Yeah. We have over 300 great young women and men from Chicagoland enrolled here. We're a commuter school. So our students take public transportation to get here. 4 days a week for classes. They are coming from the south side, from the west side, some suburbs, but mostly city kids. The majority are graduates of CPS, Chicago Public Schools. Others come to us from Chicago charter high schools or Chicago's Catholic high schools, including the Cristo Rey network of schools. And, you know, I think these are students who are looking for an opportunity and who are interested in a post-secondary ed experience. And I think the price point, you know, caught their attention to get a 2-year degree and to be part of the Loyola experience. To get a 2-year degree, though, and to do that without going into debt was very attractive. And this gives our students the opportunity to say, you know, taking a class in philosophy, I really like that. I never thought I would. Or, wow, I'm really good at statistics. Or, you know, the business school's across the street, and I kind of like my accounting and marketing classes here at Arrupe. I never thought about majoring in business, but maybe I will. So it's the story that I think 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds experience whenever they go off to college. Our students are having that experience as well, beginning to see themselves in new ways because of courses and because of classmates and because of committed faculty members and staff who are so generous with their time, so talented, and are so generous in terms of accompanying our students during their first post-secondary ed experiences.
Very good. And so what kind of courses and associate's degrees are available here at Arrupe?
Yeah, so 3, our students can get associate's degrees in arts and humanities, in business, or in social sciences. There are pre-majors here. I have to say that most of our students, what they're really focused on is this completing their general ed requirements. You know, our students will complete 61 credits here. Our curriculum is the same as their counterparts, their classmates at Loyola's College of Arts and Sciences, with 5 electives. And that's when they begin to think, I'll major in communications or in psychology or in poli-sci, so they can do a deep dive there. But it's mostly general ed. And then the idea is for those students who do go on to 4-year programs, they've done their general ed and they're ready to delve into their majors.
And do most of the students end up going on to 4-year programs?
We've graduated 1 class so far.
Okay.
So of those 80 plus students, almost all of them have continued on in 4-year colleges, many here at Loyola University. However, you know, some of our students have gone on, they're leveraging their associate's degree in the workplace. I'm really proud, for example, of 3 of our students who are now enrolled in Chicago's Police Academy. And their associate's degree positions them well for success and, quite frankly, for a higher salary with the Chicago Police Department.
Very good. And so now shifting a little bit onto you, you mentioned this was a startup. This kind of thing had really not been done before.
Right.
How did your own Jesuit formation in education prepare you for this job?
What can I say? I mean, I've been at this game for decades. You know, when I talk about Arrupe College, I talk about it in the context of 40 plus years of some Jesuits, and mostly, you know, really talented laywomen and laymen, trying to create opportunities for students who often don't experience Jesuit education. So the first of those experiences was on the middle school level. The first Jesuit middle school for kids from the tenements and the projects of the Lower East Side of Manhattan opened in the 1970s. And I worked there in the 80s. I was there for 5 years. And really, that experience and my students there and my colleagues there, including the Jesuits, really inspired me to enter the Society of Jesus in 1987. I was part of a team that opened another, and those schools are called Nativity schools. There's one here in Chicago, Chicago Jesuit Academy. There were 50 of those now around the country. I was part of a team in the 90s Kennedys that started another nativity model school. This one was in Harlem in New York City. I have degrees in administration. I like administration. I like working with teams of other administrators and faculty and staff, and also with board members to move projects forward. I was very blessed to spend 9 years as president of a Jesuit high school on Manhattan's Upper East Side, Loyola School, where we built a great team and really repositioned a high school there. Mm-hmm. And I'm blessed with a phenomenal board here and wonderful colleagues, doing the work of administration to get this program off the ground.
And so you write in your book, which is featured here, Come to Believe How the Jesuits Are Reinventing Education Again, that you really try to engage with the students as much as possible. You try to be a very visible face. How do you do that on a day-to-day basis?
We have a student commons downstairs, so we're on the 3rd floor right now in my office. I try to walk through the building on my way in from wherever I had a breakfast meeting this morning, but when I came in, I wanted to see what was for breakfast here. Mm-hmm. By the way, you missed out, it was pancakes, and this very popular with our students. Mm-hmm. They were raving about them, and so talking to students about what classes they have today, or what their plans are for this weekend, or what they're studying for. One student today, this is our first week of classes in the 2nd semester, and she's got a quiz in, one of her classes, and her book was all highlighted. So, mm-hmm. Sort of seeing what she was up to. I think that, those walkthroughs are important, valuable. Mm-hmm. I try to track students' birthdays. I bumped into Naomi yesterday. It was her birthday. I was running out of the building to get to an appointment, but I saw her. And, other people remembered, and I did too, Mm-hmm. So I, unfortunately, I'm not in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And when I chose administration over 20 years ago, it was deliberate, and I knew that was a trade-off, because when you are teaching, you're on the front lines, and mm-hmm. that's where the formation of our students really happens, day in, day out. And I was blessed with those experiences when I was in my 20s and 30s. But there are other opportunities to interact with the students, and just being available to them is, whether, let's say a student is going to present to the entire student body. So I do a lot of public speaking, mostly at Mass on Sundays and mm-hmm. homilies, but I'm happy to work with students on their speeches. When students are going to present at our board meetings, I usually try to have lunch with them before a week before the board meetings, just to sort of say, okay, this is kind of what we're looking for, and these are who our board members are, and sort of to put them at ease. I'm always looking for opportunities to be with them. Tonight, we have an organization called Black Men for Success, mm-hmm. and it works with my calendar. I'll be attending that, with our students and some of our faculty. Yeah.
Very good. And so another thing you wrote about in this book is that Arrupe places a great emphasis on accompanying students, whether it's through the volunteer tutors or through the executives or through the professors and instructors. What does it mean to accompany a student?
Yeah, I write about this in the book. I still love it when people quote themselves. But this has really become very important for me as I get older. The story of Martha and Mary in Luke's Gospel. Mm-hmm. So, I think a lot of us can relate to Martha. She gets things done, and Mary's sitting at Jesus' feet. Be like, come on, Mary, get in the kitchen and help me out here. Mm-hmm. But Jesus says that Mary gets it right, and I get that more and more. Our role here is not so much, Martha doing for, but rather, like Mary, being with. Mm-hmm. So it's important for us to be with our students as young adults, as first-gen students, as, we accompany them as they learn how to navigate this thing called higher ed, post high school life, rather than doing it all for them. And sometimes my inclination is, okay, let's get this done. And sometimes that's necessary, but I think it's better for everybody, and it certainly is better for me when I am reined in and I'm accompanying rather than doing for the student. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, how is that? How does that really impact the students, especially ones who are facing hardships, such as if they are students facing homelessness or lower income or hardships such as that?
Yeah. So, we want all of our students to feel like they have power and agency and choice. And so, your point's a good one. And sometimes if the situation is dire, then an intervention has to be made. But if the student has a sense that he or she can make some choices here, well, it's better for everyone, particularly the student, because then they'll own it, and it's empowering for them. So, oftentimes my colleagues and I will try to help students identify options. What's the best option? What do they gravitate towards? In many ways, for some of your viewers who are familiar with Ignatian spirituality, we're helping our students to learn how to do some discernment and to begin to recognize what St. Ignatius Loyola called consolation or desolation. And consolation is not always a feel-good, but it's a sense of peace, like, okay, I'm moving in the right direction, even though right now it's not a joyride. And so, if we can help our students with their decision making and make good choices, and choices that maybe aren't super fun up front, but have a lasting effect that will be a benefit for them or their families or their communities or their goals, then mission accomplished.
And you write about setting high expectations for the students academically in terms of GPA, in terms of projects. How has that helped the students reach these goals?
So here's the thing, my colleagues have really brought this to my attention, and so I'm doing a deeper dive into the research on deficit narratives versus asset narratives. And, for students who are, they're always called low income or, from gun and gang infested neighborhoods, it's always this, what they don't have, or things are broken. I look at our students as bringing tremendous assets to Arrupe, to our lives as professionals and practitioners, to Loyola University, to Jesuit higher ed. Our students teach me a lot about resilience, about navigation, about, let's say if they haven't had a lot of coaching in their lives from other mentors, or how they're internally driven, that they have this focus that someone hasn't done for them. They have a goal. And so I think that keeping that asset narrative to the forefront for our students, rather than talking about deficits all the time, is really a benefit for them, and also for us, and I think for Jesuit higher ed.
Very good. And so now, fundraising is a critical part of higher education and ensuring that Arrupe's mission will succeed. So when you meet donors, when you meet benefactors, how do you sell Arrupe to them? And how can our listeners who are watching help out?
So make sure your checks out to Arrupe College. Look, I think everybody knows that higher education, the costs for higher education, have been spiraling upward and out of control. Also, everyone recognizes that just as a high school diploma was the pathway a generation or two ago, that's not enough anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so without some sort of post-secondary ed credential, you're always going to be behind in terms of the American dream, middle class attainment, professional success, financial stability.
Mm-hmm.
People get that. And I think a lot of people know that one of the challenges that we're facing in this country is the student debt crisis, that young people are graduating from colleges and universities with $30 or $40 or $50,000 or more in debt.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's terrible to begin your professional lives, your post-college lives in the red. So here's Arrupe College that's trying to address, all of those things and more. It makes sense. I mean, I was out with supporters last night, and they're so excited about our model. But I think what really engages people the most is stories of students, stories of students who are achieving, who are successful, who are growing, who are growing in confidence as students, who are falling in love with different academic disciplines, who have really been influenced by a great mentor, whether that's a faculty member or a staff member here, who have a future orientation or are now looking ahead to four-year schools or to the workplace and feeling more confident about that. Mm-hmm. And, we have very concrete needs that people understand here. So I mentioned, walking through our student commons. Mm-hmm. And, many of our students, I think all of our students, qualified for free or reduced rate breakfasts and lunches when they were in high school. And so, that need doesn't go away. It's also a great way, particularly for commuters, to build community. So we offer free breakfasts and lunches here, mm-hmm. The days that we're in session, 4 days a week, our classes mm-hmm. meet. So, the meal program, that's $1,000 for the year for a student to have breakfast and lunch here. Before classes even begin, all of our students experience an orientation. That includes a retreat experience. And, this is not rocket science, but the research shows that if, before you enroll, if you've had a very substantive orientation where you've met your professors, you've sat down with your advisor, you've kind of mapped out what your coursework's going to look like, you've made some new friends, mm-hmm. you know how to get to the building, where your classes are going to be, then retention rates go up. Mm-hmm. So we provide an orientation program that includes that retreat, and that's just part of what we give to our students. A lot of people respond to that. Folks who have gone to college or whose children are in college, they recognize how important orientations are. We give all of our students laptops. We were finding that some of our students had desktops, or they're doing their homework on tablets, or they're doing their homework on their smartphones. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to level the playing field so that everyone had the same equipment. So we issue computers to all of our students. We have a college transfer counselor. And she arranges for tours for our students to visit schools in the Chicagoland area, but also in Wisconsin, in Indiana, in Missouri, throughout Illinois. And it's just an opportunity for our students who want to go on to 4 years and who are interested maybe in leaving home to say, am I ready to leave Chicago? Do I want to be in a big city? Am I ready for a public institution? Am I ready for something non-Jesuit? Do I like Arrupe's size? We're very small. Do I want to stay in a small setting? They become savvier consumers. So we want to make that opportunity available for our students. We have an ACT prep class. Mm-hmm. I was talking to one of our students the other night, and he wants to go into engineering. He said, I've got to take the ACT again. A lot of kids take ACT prep classes, or they have a tutor or that kind of a thing. Many of our students haven't benefited from that experience. So we have an ACT prep class. So these are the, various opportunities. We have a number of undocumented students as well, and we're very committed to them. We want to make this experience here at Arrupe available to them, and so many folks, foundations as well as individuals, have responded to their need. I mean, our financial model is based on all of our students receiving Pell Grants, and then here in Illinois, the state aid is called the MAP grant, the Monetary Assistance Program. If you're not a citizen, you're not eligible for federal and state aid. So that places them at a disadvantage that's close to $10,000. So many people have stepped up to support the undocumented students that are enrolled here.
Well, that's wonderful. One of the benefits of Arrupe is that it is part of the larger Loyola University Chicago system. How has that relationship been beneficial to the startup and success of Arrupe?
Without Loyola, this wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just name it. That's exactly it. Loyola has such a strong brand identity, nationally, internationally, and then here in Chicagoland. So, for your viewers who are hip to all things Jesuit, they'll know that, the college is named after Father Pedro Arrupe. But a lot of our students and a lot of our feeder school folks, they don't know, who Father Arrupe was. Everyone in Chicago knows Loyola University, great school, selective, competitive, extraordinary programs here, great undergrad experience, great health profession programs. So that brand right away legitimized this new startup that, what is this, Arrupe, 2-year college? They have no success metrics. Oh, it's part of Loyola. It's worthy of our time. So really, I can't say enough about Loyola's well-earned, well-deserved, stellar reputation and how we benefit from that.
And now you mentioned you graduated your first class this past year, so you're in your third academic year, correct?
Correct.
And so what have been the biggest successes in these first few years?
I would say this, that I marvel at our students, at their achievement, at the way that they build community, at what they teach us about resilience, and about how to better and more effectively deliver a liberal arts education. I mean, obviously, some big successes. We graduated a class, extraordinary. I've been going to graduations for decades. I think this was the best graduation I've ever attended. I'm biased, but I mean, it was very moving, and there's this word in Yiddish about cavelling. When you cavell, you're bursting with pride. I think all of us were cavelling, for the students, and also, God, we did this. We started in August of 2015 with 159 students, and they took a risk to pioneer this with us. And 2 years later, so many of them completed. I mean, nationally, 5% of those who enroll into your college has graduated in 2 years' time. We had over 50% graduate in 2 years' time. Nationally, 28% graduated in 3 years' time. We've had over 70% graduate in 2.5 years' time. So, I'm so proud of the work of my colleagues here and the work of our students. I think that's the highlight. I mean, starting this, garnering the support of donors, certainly, and of the larger Jesuit community. I mean, people around the country are following this story. Friends of mine, Jesuits and laywomen and laymen who work in Jesuit colleges and universities from coast to coast are very supportive. And so I always say, well, great, now you have to replicate. You have to start your versions of Arrupe at your campuses. Just like there are over 50 of those nativity schools, just like there are over 30 Cristo Rey high schools now around the country. So this is the next movement. But in terms of what's already been accomplished, to get this thing going, to have a class graduate, and to have the support of folks in Chicago, including so many donors. Yeah.
And so for those who are now interested and are going to go and buy your book after watching this, what do you want people to take away from your book?
You'll read about, first and foremost, I hope, compelling stories of our students and our work with them. You know, it is a very, I think, hope-filled enterprise here at Arrupe. And I think also, too, people are looking for innovation. So this is something very innovative, very entrepreneurial in higher education. We're looking at different models on how to deliver an undergrad experience. Well, here's one of them, and we've had some success so far. So if you're interested in higher education and access issues and promoting justice and the affordability of higher ed, if you're a graduate of a Jesuit college or university or high school, I think the story will resonate with you. If you're interested in what's happening in large cities like Chicago and in creating more opportunities for residents in great cities like Chicago, I think this book can also be a good read.
And so now going forward, what is your vision for Arrupe in this model?
As I said a moment ago, I hope that other Jesuit colleges and universities jump in the pool with us and begin to look at ways that they can adapt our model for their context and to create versions of Arrupe on their campuses to facilitate access for Jesuit higher ed in the way that it's delivered in their areas. So yeah, that would be marvelous. I mean that's really So I get asked that question all the time. Who's next? Who are you talking to, and who's interested, and who do you think has the bandwidth to pull this off? So very proud of Loyola University and for my colleagues here in Chicago for taking the risk. And so the challenge is out there. Let's see who we're at your service in terms of sharing our experiences to see the next one open and flourish.
Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning. For those of our viewers who are in Chicago on Tuesday at 6 p.m., you can see Father Katsouros speak at our Jesuit Connections event. That'll be at the Stretch Bar and Grill on Clark Street. So you can find the event on our website, jesuitsmidwest.org, and also on our Facebook page. And thanks so much for joining me this morning. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.